Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam, and on behalf of Book Soup, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for our next virtual event with Louis Cannizzaro in conversation with Gregory Siff to discuss There Once Was a Girl Who Created a World. We'll be hosting more virtual events in the near future, and you can learn more about them by signing up for our newsletter on our website, as well as our social media at Book Soup. And our next event is scheduled for tomorrow at the same time, with Rob Halford in conversation with Corey Groh to discuss his autobiography, Confess. So that's a ticketed event. And if you'd like to join, you can check our social media or our website, and it'll take you to our Eventbrite. So tonight's question will end with a Q&A. And to submit a question, please use the Ask a Question button at the bottom of the screen. It's right next to the chat bar at the bottom, so you'll see it there. And to submit a question, if you see one on the list that you'd like for our speakers to answer, you can click the like button and it'll bump it up in the queue. And we will answer as many questions as time will allow. Also, please support Book Soup and our authors this evening by purchasing a copy of tonight's featured book, which you can do by clicking the green button below. And you will also get these one-of-a-kind hand-drawn cards with the book that they'll hold up right now.
There you go.
And you can only get those at Book Soup, I think. So if you would like one with your book, please, please, please click the green button at the bottom. It'll take you to Book Soup's website, and it won't disrupt the viewing, so you can do that at any point. And with that said, let me introduce our guest speakers for this evening. Louis Cannizzaro is an American poet, artist, and author. His work is in collections all over the world. He has had shows in Paris, New York City, Los Angeles, and Aspen. His work has appeared in magazines such as Snacks Magazine, Rolling Stone, Vanity Fair, and he was the cover artist for the European art journal Exhibit A.
That's right.
And this is where people would applaud if we were in store. American artist Gregory Siff is best known for his highly emotive style that merges abstraction, pop, and action painting. By using inks, acrylic, and spray paint, he creates iconic elements in the form of storyboards, capturing time and nostalgia. His works have been included in MoMA, PS1's Rockaway, Vans Custom Culture, at the Whitney Museum of American Art, and in luxury fashion house Saint Laurent's Fashion Week 2018 collection. Gregory also collaborated with revolutionary fashion brand Pyre Moss, painting pieces live on the runway that are now archived by the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. Most recently, he completed his artist residency at Cass Contemporary for his solo exhibition, Evidence of Life. Paintings from this show were unveiled first at the Tampa Museum of Art during lectures about the importance of artist residencies and the impact of art on our collective culture. So really excited to have these two together. Love all of this. And Greg, why don't you tell us how Louis and Book Soup kicked off your artistic journey in Los Angeles?
Well, I gotta thank this guy because 20 years ago, I was an actor.
20?
I think it was 20 years ago, 2000, 99. Maybe, is it 20 or 21?
It was just last week.
Yeah. And I'm walking down Sunset Boulevard, and I was out there to do a Disney show, and I go into Book Soup. And first I saw your picture on the poster. There was a poster of you with a beanie on with these pins. I was like, oh, that guy's cool. And I go in, and I see these postcards of these paintings, and I just start grabbing all of them. I'm like, oh, this one's great, and this one's great. And they're beautiful stories about your girlfriend and about love. And I didn't know anything about love yet. But I have to thank you for introducing to me what love is. And then someone from Book Soup came over and said, oh, we have more from the author. The artist has signed copies in the back. And I go there, and there was 3 of them or 4 of them, and I can only buy one. And I bought I Love My Girlfriend. And then I wanted to know more about you, and you changed my life because I just started emailing you. I went to Book Soup to hear you read the book, and
That's right.
And I was like, Lou, I don't want to be an actor anymore. How do I do this? And what was the advice that you told me?
Oh, think of the craziest thing and do it. It's very simple.
And now that craziest thing has become from your self-published books,
right,
to becoming a full-fledged published author. And this is my favorite out of all of your books. And it's beautiful. And like, this came out yesterday?
Came out yesterday, yes. Yeah.
So this isn't your first book, obviously.
No, I had 4 books that I self-published. And I got a call from a friend of mine, Courtney, from Andrews McMeel, who I hadn't seen in over 10 years, but she used to buy my books when she lived out here. And she moved to Kansas City, Missouri, started working at Andrews McMeel, and called me and said that they wanted to publish my next book. I never approached a publisher before because I didn't know how to describe my own books. I just used to say stick figures and words, which didn't get you too far. So I just I self-published 4 books on my own, and then they said, Patty Rice said, we want to get a new book from you. How long will it take you to do a new book? And I said, 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. So I did what I always did. I waited 5.5 weeks, and I did it in 4 days.
What?
Yeah, but I had the poetry already done. It was just a matter of putting all the art together.
So wait, what's the title of the book? And is this the cover?
This is the original cover.
Yeah, I'll hold that up. And
this is the book. There once was a girl who created a world. The idea for this happened all at once. This came fully formed, a fully formed idea. A lot of times when I get an idea, it comes, but it has a lot of personal stuff with it. So I treat it like a sculpture, and I kind of cut out all the personal parts. And
yeah,
what's left is, are you seeing that backwards? Which is cool as well.
Sleepless on a summer.
No, we can see it forward.
You see it forward? Oh, cool.
So this was a much bigger idea, but
Well, what is that
I cut out
process that you say, like, this one's the fire that you were?
Oh, the fire and the smoke. So this would be the fire in that it showed up ready to go. And this one would be the smoke in that it's part of a larger thought, but it's like the cigarette smoke. It's just as powerful, but it's a little more subtle.
Did you always know you wanted to be an artist? Did you always know that you wanted to put these poems in? How did
Well, when I lived in New York, I didn't know I wanted to be anything. I used to work at a nightclub, and
a nightclub, the nightclub.
I worked at Limelight, and
the VIP room.
every time Andy Warhol would come in, I'd have him sign a $100 bill. So I had a stack of those. I don't know where they are now, but
You got some Warhol signed.
I got this signed. So I was always attracted to the lifestyle. I thought it was really cool. And then when I moved out here, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had these cards, oblique strategy cards. They're put out by Brian Eno and Peter Schmidt. Anyways, they give you suggestions on how to get rid of writer's block and all kinds of things. And I got this one. It says, what are you really thinking just about now? Incorporate. So it came to me that I would like to incorporate my poems and art. And that day I went to Blix and I got canvases and paint, and I just started.
So that was just a surge that that I have to act on this and do it right now and get it out.
It seemed hard and easy at the same time. It seemed like I can do this, but it's a good kind of difficult that I could work my way around and it would be satisfying.
So it's Young Lou, your first work that you created. You're putting it out. Like, what did you do? How did you get the first work? How was it received? Like your
I used to give it away to friends for a long time. As a matter of fact, one of my friends said, I will take pictures of your work and you can have shows. And I thought, no one's going to buy these things. I was happy giving them away. So long story short, she wound up taking the paintings, putting them in her studio. And then she called me a couple weeks later and said, people want to buy these. How much are they? So my rent was $750. So I said $750. And in about 2 months, I had a year's rent paid. So when things like that happen at the beginning of your career or anything like that, you just live off that energy for a while. So that kept me going.
You knew you were in the right place.
I knew. the part of having the price of the painting mean something rather than something arbitrary.
Yeah.
you knew that your work could help you live, you know?
Well, I love when I first met you, like one of the first stories you told me is that you had to paint this big painting. It didn't fit in the apartment. So you were painting it on the street and the painting was still wet. And
Right, it was the first Bowie one. It was a huge one. It was 6 feet by 4 feet.
and this is one
And
of
somebody drove by and said, I'll give you, what was it? I'll give you $800 for that.
and you sold it.
I sold it to him. I
Wet.
put it in the back of his car. Yeah, it was a car for, yeah, and it was still wet. I'm not even sure if it was done. Well, it was done then. It was done.
So you have a very big history with Book Soup. You have a mural that's up in there right now that
I had a huge mural, and they painted over parts of it, and there's a little bit left in the corner.
Still
on
alive.
the west side. It's a girl, and there's some text around it. So
maybe there's another mural coming up in
Yeah,
there.
maybe there's another mural.
Maybe there's another mural
Yeah.
coming up because this is a very uplifting book. I mean, it showed up today, and so I wanted to ask you, before you were published, what was your first published piece besides the self-publishing?
This is interesting because I knew I had something, and I wanted to take it out for a test drive, just to see how I could, like, you know, think of the craziest thing and do it. So I wanted to see if I could get, well, I'll show you what it is first.
That's great advice, by the way. We're going to get into more of that later, some Lou advice.
So Vanity Fair, I sent them a letter. You want to read that?
Yes. Okay. In about 20 minutes, I'm getting a tattoo of Madonna. This morning, I was scared shitless, but I just read your article, and I feel better. Louis Cannizzaro, Hollywood, California.
So I didn't get the tattoo, and I must have been reading the Warhol diaries because it's celebrity enhanced, and I got it in, they called me up. My biggest fear was they were going to want a picture of the tattoo, which I never got, of course. But well, I like the way I like the rhythm of the way I wrote the letter. It's kind of in my style and everything.
Yeah, this is going to be framed in a retrospective.
Yes.
What I love about it is because, like, the way that you put this into Vanity Fair, two things came true with this. Number one, tons of, I mean, when I followed you in the beginning on MySpace and following photos, you send out those newsletters of, like,
oh, right,
these beautiful girls with pink hair and tattoos. Your work was tattooed. Your paintings, I mean, this is on arms and backs and
yeah, that came out of left field. I would get photos out of nowhere. Girls that here's the difference between guys and girls. Guys will pay me for a design and take you out to lunch and talk about it and where should it be, blah, 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 and never get it. I've got photos from girls, and this is 100% better, just like from here to here, still bleeding. Hi, I live in Boston, and I just got this done. And there's a lot of those.
But this was really cool, is that in one of your books, you did a piece that's hilarious and awesome. Madonna. What does it say? Do you have the? This is on the back of the.
Oh yeah, LA slides in ocean. Madonna saved, world breathes sigh of relief.
So that painting.
That was a postcard.
It's a postcard into a painting in Madonna's collection. Now, how did that happen?
Well, they called me from Maverick when she had Maverick Records, and they wanted to buy the original because people keep sending them the postcard, and they were wondering if the original was still for sale. So again, it wound up being a Madonna.
Yeah, so now you're in the Madonna collection right next to Jean-Michel Basquiat, which is
I don't know where it's placed, but it's there.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome.
That's legendary,
right? Like, so that's what's cool because I love Jean-Michel Basquiat, but like I love Louis because he's my best friend. Like your best friend is a legendary artist, and like we'll just like send each other text messages, and every text message that comes through, what you type always looks like a painting, or whatever you say comes out. It's just all of it. You feel like you're in a New York City downtown painting.
Right. He came into the limelight once for a total of 15 minutes. He walked by me, and I said, "Oh, there's that guy." And he went up, and then about 15 minutes later, he ran out really fast. We used to have these candles on the tables, and I guess he took one of the candles and tried to light the curtains on fire. So they chased him out.
Superhero. So are there any other, so we got Vanity Fair, are there any other unexpected publications?
Yeah.
Yes, Sam recalled this, huh? This is...
Yeah, my friend, Nicole Panter actually had a friend that was guest editing this magazine and said, send them some. So I just sent her postcards, never seen the magazine before. And they wound up putting this image on the front. Now, if you'll notice, this image is a lot different than anything else I've ever done, because another one of these cards says, go to the edge once and then find a comfortable middle. So this was my edge. And when I made postcards of this, it was the most, all the other loved ones, this is the one that sells the most. I've got pictures of people that have gone to Amsterdam, Sweden, Italy, and they see them like in tattoo shops, and they've been all over the place.
I've seen that on T-shirts or the fashion collaborations. That this is a iconic image.
Yes, I've talked people out of getting this tattooed if they're young, because I could see that being a bad idea after a while.
That's cool. So, is it true? I know she said Rolling Stone. Is it true that that Jack Nicholson was like one of your first canvases that you painted on Jack Nicholson?
Right. My friend Samantha that was doing wardrobe styling on the shoot for The Departed had Jack Nicholson in there, and she said, do you want to paint on a shirt? So I took some stage blood and then I put some eggs in it so it would be runny. And I painted the shirt, and he came in and he tried it on and it was great. And then I was leaving and they said, oh no, will you paint on Jack's face? So I went in there and there he was, and he had glasses on. He was in a barber chair, and I put my hand in this goop and I put it on his face like this, and it made it to the magazine. It was in the inside.
Rolling Stone.
And I took the shirt, so I still have that.
Was he intimidating?
No, he was really nice. He was really cool.
Oh, good.
No, not at all. Not at all. He was it was his idea to paint his face.
That's cool. I'd be nervous. I'd be nervous with him.
There was raw eggs in it, though, but
that's secret.
It was fresh raw eggs.
Well, you created that paint, but you also you created your own color on the Pantone. You made your own paint.
I
right?
did powder French blue, which is
this right here.
Oh yeah, this right here. I used to paint a lot in navy blue, but I was also painting a lot of sky, which would be dipping the paintbrush in white and then blue and then onto the canvas. And then after a while, I noticed that the navy blue was lightening up to really nice blue. So I took it down to, not Home Depot, what's the other place?
Dunn Edwards.
Dunn Edwards. And they scanned it and they made me a gallon of this. And they call it powder French blue. And whenever I need a new gallon, I call them up and say,
I actually,
and they make it.
I have something that you gave me 10 years ago when we did that show together, Adore.
Oh, that was a while ago. That was with
at the 360 Atelier with D.
What did he say?
Well, I'm going to tell you, but Lou and we both painted doors the whole day on Melrose, and it was such. We were like, wow, what a great. We sold paintings. We met so many people.
There was hundreds of people at that show.
And I was like, this was in the back of Lou's truck. And I said, Lou, I just love that color. I love what you did. He goes, here, give me that. And he signed it. And on December 4th, 2010, hey, Greg, we showed the F up. We showed the F up that day. And this is like a very important piece that,
yeah, because you asked me when you had your first opening, like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, don't just have an art show. Do something else. Don't just show up. Show the fuck up. And do something. And then, like, years later, he was having shows where ice cream trucks were showing up and giving out free Mr. Soft.
Talk about 3 things. So that's what you told me when we started out. You have like 3 rules that you
right.
You live
Every
by.
day, do 3 things for your career. 2 things that are normal and 1 thing that's crazy. I called Museum of Modern Art in New York and I said, would you put my paintings in your museum? And they said, probably not. And I said, will you put my postcards in your bookstore? And they said, maybe. So I sent them the postcards and they loved them. And for a year, they restocked them. I did the same thing with some places in Europe, and also the
Urban Outfitters.
Urban Outfitters
Oh,
took
and-
my T-shirts,
So-
and
This is a kind of huge moment, right? And I want to go back to,
right.
but
Here's
who's this? What's going on
that's me
here?
and Johnny Thunders in New York a long time
That's
ago.
that's Jim Morrison, Lou. That's the Lizard King, and you're wearing a lizard.
Yeah, that's the Lizard King Lou.
But this is an epic moment for, and this is Lewis's paintings, the Neiman Marcus windows. And is this in Beverly Hills?
Yeah, they gave me all 4 or 5 windows to do whatever I wanted to. They had a thing called the Art of Fashion. And it was supposed to stay up for 2 weeks. It stayed up for 2 months.
Is that you holding?
That's me holding my son.
In the reflection.
Who's now a lot older.
Picture.
This is incredible. I mean, that's one of my favorite ones. Hey, baby doll, while you slept, I kissed your spine.
Yeah.
Like those are the postcards. Are like, wow, this is beautiful. Here, that's where that's from. Just your color choice and size of Art of Fashion.
So when I did that, I went online and I invited anybody that wanted to come down. And I had a boombox there, and you could bring a tape or a CD and play your music while I was doing it. So there were people coming in, taking photos, and playing music and stuff. It was fun. It took me about 4 days to finish it, but they kept it up for a month, which was surprising.
I think that was like so cool. You were doing this back then, like coming straight out from New York City, straight out to LA, going head first into your dream before it was like a cool thing. Like this is like a daring, brave thing, declaring you're an artist.
I loved it. It was better than not knowing what you were going to do. I was a self-contained mobile unit until I started hanging out with the people on Melrose, those people we hung out with.
Yeah,
I did all this stuff by myself. I would sit in stores sometimes for 3 hours with my books and my postcards, thinking it was the greatest day ever because somebody was going to look at my stuff. So I loved the whole thing. I didn't sit there and go, this is great. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this to go back to 360 Atelier, D. Lavelle, who had the gallery there, he once said one of the greatest lessons that I learned. He said, the genius of Lou isn't where he puts the paint, but where he doesn't put the paint. And I loved that because when, so many times as an artist, I've had people go, yeah, I could do that, or that looks like that. And then you don't realize how this weighted scale from your heart comes out onto a page and just is so congruent. And I think you've really, he's got it, like you've mastered that.
I want to make sure that when somebody reads it, looks at the piece, there's enough room in there for them to put their own experiences in it. So if 5 different people see it, you get 5 different stories. I used to leave the personal stuff in it, and I felt like I was being like a spectacle, like it was too much me. I don't think I'm that interesting that I could put everything in there. So if I cut some out and have a good rhythm going with the art and the words, it's like sculpting a little handle, and people like remember it. They take it with them when they leave.
I like that.
Somebody once bought a painting and said, I need to have this painting. I don't even know if I like it or not, but I can't get the words out of my head. So that was a good rave.
Oh yeah. So let's get into there. Once was a girl who created a world. What is the question you get asked most?
Oh, who is it about?
Who is this girl?
I know,
Yeah.
I know. I would never say anything personal about the book. I want it to go out there, and I want you to have your own person and experiences in there. This is a finished piece, and I don't want to explain too much because I did a few times at the beginning, and they go, this is my favorite piece. You know where this is going. But tell me it. And then after I tell them, they go, oh, that's not what I saw. So you're only going to disappoint people.
Yeah.
What you would need to do would be to get a third person to tell me what you want me to say, and that would be good for you.
It's kind
because I wouldn't be saying the wrong thing. But I'm leaving room in there for people to have their own interpretations.
What makes this one of my favorite, my favorite of all of your books, is that the girl, the character who you paint in, in your paintings and your work, her eyes are always shut with her lashes, but this is the first time you've completely opened her eyes. And I think that that's what's one of the great parts about the book, is you do it right at the jump, like right inside the front cover and the back cover are the wide open eyes. Tell me how you...
Well, it's been painting for a long time, over 20 years. Well, this was a big thing because I just discovered liquid acrylic. So when I was painting before, I was painting out of the tube and stuff, and it was very, but now I can do like flowy type lines. And it was a pretty big thing for me to start doing. So also,
there's a lot of looseness and freedom.
These buildings.
Maybe I'll put some lights on. The sun is going down over here.
Oh, yeah.
That powder front. Tell me if you're getting a little
Hold on.
light in there.
Much better. So yeah, so these buildings used to be just buildings that went like that, which are fine, which are good, like this. Very nice.
Can you hold that one up higher?
This?
No, the other one. Yeah, so we can see the bottom of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of abstract in it, and you're doing a lot more that I've never seen you do in this book. Like you saved it up in here.
Yeah. I had I did the poetry mostly in Paris, New Orleans, and here. But I finished the entire book here when I put it together. But
so about I think 8 years ago, came to your old spot and you had this black leather book, and you said you wanted to show me it. And you opened it up, and there wasn't any colors, and it was just like pen ink, but it was all of your poems and all of your things. And I some of those I read that day that you were reading me. I still haven't seen them in books and stuff like that. In this book, are any of those?
Yeah, a lot of them are.
Here.
They're from there. They're from the New Orleans Journal and the Paris Journal as well. So
hearts are good at finding other hearts. just a little memo there.
Just a little memo, exactly.
So you made the book there. Do you want to? So which comes first? Out of the book, do you?
It's almost always the poem.
It's the poem before the art.
If the poem's good, then the painting will be sound. Yeah.
And why do you put them in drawings and paintings and not just on the page? Why do they?
Oh, just a poetry book?
Yeah. Why do they need the?
Well, it's another thing you can do with your art. I mean, why not do that and the other? It's like showing up and making it different.
Bringing a little bit more.
Yeah, it came to me when I was when I said that card, incorporate. Incorporate didn't mean go into business. Incorporate meant take two different ideas and put them together. So I didn't know if I wanted to be a writer or a painter, but then you can do both, and it's weird how until it dawns on you that you can do both, it never occurs to you.
You told me about going to a script library and
right
about.
I don't read a lot of poetry, but I used to go to the script library on Cahuenga or La Cienega, or maybe Fairfax. Anyways, I love reading stage directions. They're very concise. They don't have a lot of fat on them. They're very. I love the rhythm and the way they're. I just love the way they're worded. So I used to go in there and just read those scripts. It was ridiculous. I would go in there when they opened, and I would leave when they closed. And sometimes you would get a script, and it would be signed by the people that were in it. I remember one was signed by Shelley Winters, and it had her notes and stuff. And one was, it's very interesting to just get into. I like to do something. I would rather get ideas from the script library than read a lot of poetry and then try to do poetry, because you're going to think you're not the best, because look who is the best. and then it starts leaking in,
Yeah.
other people's word.
Your books do go down like a movie. Like you're reading it and it feels like the morning sitting on the stairs, rubbing her eyes, waiting for tea to cool. Like character and is just about to go approach this moment, and I feel like these would make a great film.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
An art film. Have you ever thought of directing films and seeing that and bringing it visually?
Not directing. My friend Travis Green has done a few short films of my work. It's come out really good. Yeah, that would be a good idea. I would be interested to see what it would look like, because there's only a sentence or two on each page, but you could do something with that.
A great thing that I learned from you is, if you're painting in the studio or you're working and you kick a bucket of paint over or something happens, like nothing's like a bad thing. Like that's part of the piece now. Like the drip happens, you spelled something wrong, something happens. That's it.
Oh yeah.
Where did that come from? Like where you don't stress about it, you don't backtrack about it. You're not careless with the painting, but you're also not.
There's a reason why you misspelled it, and you can always paint over it. But that should be a last resort. That's the coward's resort. You can, well, for me, I don't like to just, okay.
No, you like.
But if you do paint over it, leave the mistake so you can see enough of it to know it was there. It's there for a reason. But I remember you had bought a car and you were pissed off because you spilled a bucket of white paint all over the front.
Inside. I was running a little late, hooked the U-turn bucket.
Oh, man.
I'm talking.
And he said, well, what should I do?
It was our art show.
Yeah, so what should you do? I said, well, sign it.
I was so bummed. And and it's actually still in the car now. I was like, leave it. And now actually there's some in the trunk too. It just happened.
Why not? They'll go on tour with car shows.
Yeah. Are there any, I wanted to say, this is #1 right now, and it just came out, which is really awesome.
It's #1 on individual artist essays.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Man. It's got the seal on there. There you go. Published. I mean,
yeah, they used to be Powder French books.
They're still Powder French books, but now it's official.
Now it's official.
I'm so proud of you, and we've been friends now for such a long time, and I've always, I always credit you in my life that you changed the direction. Like you woke my heart up, you shook it up, and I love that about these books. One of your favorite characters or people is Paris. Tell me why Paris always pops up, and you've been there and painted there.
Right.
What's so special about Paris for Louis Cannizzaro?
I was watching a lot of foreign films, and I love, as much as I love stage directions, I like subtitles, because subtitles are also direct and to the point, and I got a lot of my thing out of that. But I was really attracted to a lot of French New Wave movies. I would watch those like crazy, how you're just like, wow, look at that. Because you watch the same movie over and over again, you notice things in the corner and this over here. And then one year I just went there, but there were years, where I just didn't have the means to go. And then all of a sudden I did. And I went, and I was staying in an Airbnb. But before I left, it was only $20 a night, and I just kept pushing the button.
Yeah, you didn't want to come home.
Yeah, I stayed there for like almost a month.
I think you were in Colette, right? Is there there's Paris in here?
Oh, yeah.
And there once was a girl.
Oh, maybe it's here.
Yeah.
It's probably bigger here.
And like these are the originals of the book that Louis has brought from the archives out.
Well, show the one from the...
Yeah, it's the Colette.
It's the receipt where I went and bought some water. They had a water bar. And another place was where I had some curry. So I wrote there. The thing about Paris, if you've ever gone there, they take your order and they bring you your food and they come back 4 hours later.
Which is good because you could write a book during that period.
Yeah, exactly.
By the time they're back, you got The Girl Who Is Sunday. The things we do without fear are the purest things we ever do. I'm looking forward to when we do the big full-on book reads back in Book Soup. This is such an optimistic, loving book, and it's like coming at a perfect time where everyone needs it. I feel like when it hit and it goes down, it just the world is a good place and it's full of love. And yeah, I'm looking for the receipt, but I guess you're gonna have to get the book.
Here.
Oh yeah,
Right here.
you guys can pick the book.
It's my receipt. And there's another one down there, and that's a Metro thing.
Yeah, your palette is very. It's a short palette from Paris blue, powder French blue, blue, red, yellow, black, white, pink.
Right. I limited myself to just these colors that are on the cover for most of the book. I think there is some green in there, but I wanted to.
Is there a reason why you like it so simple?
I'd rather have. It's another quote from those cards. I'd rather have 4 crayons than 400 crayons. So you have to make it work. You know. So, did you want to do a question?
Yeah, maybe. Samantha, should we look at, let's see, ask a question? I got 2 down in here. All right. Okay.
Do you want me to read it?
Should I read it? You want to read it, Sam?
Either way.
All right, I'll do the first one. You do the second one.
All right.
I'm new to Lou, and I keep wondering, do you define yourself as a writer or an artist first? Does it matter to you if you're one or the other or both? And how do you walk the fine line between those 2 worlds?
Oh, well, like I said, the poems come first. So the poems come first, and then the art, and then I guess I would consider myself an artist first.
Poet.
I consider myself an artist second because the art happens second, but everything is equally important. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think. No, it does.
No, it does.
All right, we got another one over here. These guys are coming in.
All right, so this one's from David. Your art has a strong, distinct voice and style. How long did it take for that to fully form? When did you realize you were expressing something honest that resonated with yourself and others?
Oh, well, it was a long process because I had a ton of work in my apartment that I just kept to myself. And then like art shows and everything that happened mostly happened without me going for it. I would go into a bookstore or a restaurant. This was in the early days, and I would just question about how they did what was the process of doing it. And more times out of 10, it would be, well, the next artist dropped out. Do you want to have a show? So it was nothing I was just asking, and then if I go for something too hard, it's I don't know. It usually happens, like with getting Anders McMeel to call me. Had nothing to do with it. My deal is I just want to put as much art out and then see what happens without any expectations. When did you really expect things to be? Just through people's reactions. You know, it's like if you're on stage and you're a comedian, you're telling a joke. If you're an actor on stage and you see how the audience, or if you're in a movie and you sit in the back and see how people are reacting, that's when you realize you're doing something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's true. I think nowadays there's a lot of expectation with like social media and everything and instant gratification. So I think that's the purest way to make your art, is to not have that expectation of a response, you know?
All the artists, I'm not speaking for myself, but I am speaking for myself, but all the artists should put out, not all, but whatever, I'm going to say it. If I put out the art, that should be it. That's why I don't like to explain it, or, I don't like to explain it because, well, I did at the beginning, and you just see people's eyes glaze over, so that's not the reaction you want. You'd rather say to them, well, what do you see? And then you go, well, that's great. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Have people arrive at their own interpretation.
I mean, that's how I built it. So that's the way,
don't change anything.
No, don't change it.
Yeah, I like that, because even this is like a rare treat to have a conversation with you and talk about all of these,
It's my first interview. I used to do the book readings and then just leave. But yeah.
What about blue speaks to you, or is it just your favorite color, or is there something more to it?
You know, when I lived in New York City, you would see the blue sky through the buildings and the trees. So it was always, while you were here, there was something else going on out there that was really pretty and hopeful. Not that New York wasn't pretty and hopeful, but you just knew there was something else. And I think blue is very, it's not only it's calming in a way that it's reassuring that that there's more stuff. It's like a place to go to, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I used to live on the East Coast. I lived in Boston and New York, and I would always take pictures of the sky between the buildings.
Right?
Like, it would stand out to me a lot more.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Where in New York did you live?
11th Street between 2nd and 3rd.
Oh, very cool.
Right next door to
New York.
Mark's Church.
Cool. I lived in Brooklyn.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Not as nice as Manhattan, probably.
What years were you there?
I lived there in 2014 to 2016.
Oh, okay.
Not very long.
I was there from 84 till 89.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
I still have the same Doc Martens, yeah.
Well, that leads me to my next, because I had another question. Because I love New York. New York's my favorite city, I think. Well, one of, at least in America. But do you have a favorite? I know you guys talked about Paris, but do you have a favorite show that happened in a different city, or was your favorite show in Paris?
My favorite art show?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
So far.
The one in Paris, I wasn't there for. I had to send them the artwork, and it was stuck in, what's it called? Customs for like 2 weeks. So they actually put it up the day they were closing, but they had a huge crowd for closing, so it wound up being good. So that was interesting in that way. The ones in Aspen were interesting. Only because the air is so thin, and
you painted it all there.
I thought I was dying. Yeah, I painted it all there because I couldn't get all these paintings up there. So I went up there about 2 weeks early, and I painted the whole show, and that was great. That was an adventure. I did the same thing in Boulder when I went to Boulder. The New York show was great. I did it with my good friend Mark Freeland at a small club on the Lower East Side, and that was fun because he was a friend of mine from New York and a very, very big influence on my art when I was growing up in Buffalo.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was Andy Warhol a big influence to you too?
Yes. Well, yes, because there's a lot of really good Andy Warhols at the Albright Knox, which is a museum in Buffalo, and I was always very attracted. There's a soup can there which has 100 soup cans, and I think they're hand painted somewhat. So it wasn't just the silk screening. So it was a really early one, and I always loved that one. But here's something that you don't know about me. I used my paper route money to buy an Andy Warhol Mick Jagger portrait that he did, a seriograph. Signed by Mick Jagger and Andy Warhol. A friend of mine, Jennifer, that owned a record store, was going there. Her brother was going there, and said, Andy Warhol and Mick Jagger are signing these portraits that Andy did. Do you want one?
Wow.
So yeah, it was $500. My mother said I used to sit there and look at it like I was watching television.
Do you have it with you now?
No, well, it's back in Buffalo.
Cool.
It's worth like,
but I still have it. Yeah, it was I got it for $500 framed.
So Andy's one of your heroes, Mick Jagger.
Oh yeah, well Keith. But
Keith.
But the difference between Andy and Jean-Michel was with Andy Warhol, you never saw him work, so it was hard to get your mind around how it went from his mind to the page. there was no internet or anything, and all the pictures of him, he was standing next to his work, but he had all this product and stuff. But with Jean-Michel, you could see him working. He was in Patricia Field's window, drawing on shirts and stuff. It was very hands-on, and you could be like, okay, you just do it. You just go get the paint and do it. Also with Andy Warhol, everything was, it's expensive to do silkscreen, stuff like that.
When you were younger, when you were in New York, you pulled the poster. I want the famous boxing poster.
Oh yeah. I went to that show, and outside the show was the boxing poster with should have brought it. Yeah, and I took it off the wall, and it still has New York dirt on it from 1984 or whatever.
Pasted it.
So you get little things like that, and then when you decide what you want to do, when you're thrown into Los Angeles, you kind of look in your own backyard and see what you have already, and see if you can make something out of it, rather than, well, first I'm going to do this, and first I'm going to get this experience. You can stop right where you are and say, what's in my toolbox right now, and use that stuff. And then you'll collect on the way, you'll collect new experiences and new tools and, ideas. But there's no reason to wait before you start.
Was there a time where you were only writing for a while and then you added the art later, or did you always do it hand in hand?
Yeah, when I was in New York, I used to write. I had a notebook. I always wrote, and I didn't know why, but I was writing it. I was keeping a notebook. And then, like I said, when I came out here, it just kind of dawned on me I wanted to try art, but it seemed like such a huge start in that I was just thinking I want to be an artist. Which is like saying I want to play guitar before you buy a guitar. So it occurred to me, like with that card I showed you, to integrate the words with the paintings. So I just started off by painting the poems, and then I started adding buildings and stars and things like that. And so it was a natural progression.
Yeah, I'm curious because I write poetry, and I've written poetry for years, and sometimes I would feel this like frustration of it doesn't feel like enough and I need to add something to it. So I would think like music, or because I can sort of play piano, so I'd be like, oh, I should put music to it or art to it too. Did you ever feel that kind of like, oh, it needs more, or you kind of just said it happened more naturally?
No, it definitely felt like it wasn't good enough alone. I mean, a lot of this stuff is one sentence, which if it was this says, I love looking over and seeing you there, which would look cool on a just typed out.
Yeah.
But this looks better.
I like the colors in that one.
Yeah, that's got green in it. That's the one time I allowed myself to use green. But yeah, I also love to do, when I do book readings, I've done a few where I've read, but I also like to have other people read them, because I like to listen to how they read the words, where they put the emphasis.
Yeah, that's cool.
This is one of my favorite pieces that you've ever done, and it has the address, there's an address on the top. That's where you said you used to live.
Oh, that's where I lived in New York, yeah.
And it says, artists create their own universe, then spend the rest of their lives living in it. Seems to me that you've done that.
Yes, that's one of those ones that gets two reactions. One is like, oh, that's great. And the other one is like, yeah, that's the truth.
It is the truth.
So it's either a happy thing for some people and a not so happy thing for other people.
The choice of being an artist.
Yeah.
Is there I think someone asked another question, or we got that one?
No, there's a new one.
Oh. I ordered the book for the art Gregory put me onto. Is it classified as a children's book?
It's not classified as a children's book. However, it's on what is the listed. One of them
there's
is
one,
inspirational.
Spiritual.
No, inspirational and religious.
Yeah.
Number 93 on there. And the other one is essay, individual artist essay. And then there's another one, love. So I just put it out there, and wherever it goes, if it went in the children's section, that would be fine with me. Yeah, I didn't really target it for any specific. It's fun to just put it out there, like putting it in the middle of the street and walking away and sitting down, drinking a cup of coffee and watching people just react to it, rather than, if you're close to it, people are going to ask you to explain it. So the best thing, the funnest thing is to watch from afar, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you've created a world, you've created this universe, and all of these, from self-published to published to art shows. What else, where else do you want to see the Powder French universe?
Well, I did a line of shirts for a while that wound up being in Anthropology and Urban Outfitters and a bunch of other stores. But you can't be in fashion part-time. So I did it just to see how it's done. Also, I had the postcards. And when I was self-publishing, I did the 4 books, but I wasn't going to do any more because I had done 4 books. And publishing your own book is fun, but it's an ordeal.
A lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So this happened when it was supposed to happen. It was a call out of the blue, and my friend Courtney said, "We want to publish your book." When does that happen? If I had tried for it, it would have been an interesting story as well. But a lot of it is my own ignorance of not knowing how to describe my own work. So but they looked at, and that's the thing, they looked at it and they had an idea for it, and it came out perfect.
Well, speaking of describing, it's been described as uplifting, and I was curious if you felt uplifted as you were writing it, or if it was kind of like healing in that sense, where you maybe didn't feel it, but writing that helped you feel that. Does that make sense?
No, it's definitely uplifting when I'm working on my art. It's a feeling like, you know, when you're eating a good meal and you say, why can't everything taste like this? Or you're driving in a car that has really good shock absorbers, and you're like, oh, it should be like this. So when I'm working on any form of my art, it's not a relief, it just feels like everything should be like this all the time. You know, whatever that feeling is, it's I can't really describe it. You know, when you finish a poem or while you're doing it,
mm-hmm.
how you feel?
Yeah.
You can't, it'd be nice if you could live in that all the time, but getting an idea and then putting it out there is the best feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like that bliss of creating, which I think some people don't feel that if they're like, say you're writing a novel and you have to write this horribly sad scene, you know, it might not feel as lovely, even if it feels accomplishing or whatever, you know.
Right. I'm kind of, I don't know if I could do that and make it interesting to other people, you know?
So maybe you're just a natural optimist.
Maybe I'm a natural, maybe I'm
that way.
It's like while you're doing it, you go, I can do this. Part of your brain is going, I can do this. And then when I write personal things in there, there's another voice that says, don't flatter yourself. Nobody wants to hear this. So when I hear that voice, I cut it out. But when it's the voice going, this is great, people are gonna like this.
Everything's always supposed to be nice.
Everything should always be nice.
Yeah,
that's one of the paintings.
Greg, it looked like you had something to say.
Oh yeah. No, I like I just like the fact that the title is "There Once Was a Girl Who Created a World," but like when I look at it, and I think it's like there once was a poet who created a world. I think that it's a really powerful little book to have, and a little reminder every day that, you know, there's love in the world, and that there's, you know, it's just feelings captured. And I love that Andrews McMeel did, keeping the traditional size of the book. You did these small books, and they work perfectly. One of my favorite quotes from Louis was, "The biggest ideas happen in the smallest rooms."
Yeah, I was writing that book in a really small apartment.
Yeah. Well, I think that the size of the book also goes. You could put it in your
size
pocket.
of the book.
You could read it to someone on the. It just
It was always, people love the size of the book. How I can carry it in my purse, I can keep it in my pocket. But when I started out with the first book, it was all I could afford, and the binding was terrible because I could only afford a cheap binding, and the pages would fall out. And then I would get emails that said, "Oh, the pages fall out. I hang them on the wall." So everything is good.
Love that. See, that's something about him, is that whatever happens, I think I was like putting artwork out in the street with all this graffiti and putting street art out in 2011, 12, and I was like, "Lou, someone painted over the wall I did." And he was like, "Oh, that's cool. That looks good. That way. Just leave it like that." That he made it even better to keep it like that. Like whatever you would see, it would just turn my whole perspective around. Like, yeah, I'm not angry. That looks tough. Let's put a picture in front of it.
Yeah.
That was
once you put it out there, once you put it on a wall, a public wall or any kind of, it's not yours anymore.
It's gonna happen.
Somebody's gonna do something to it. I mean,
aerosol rats.
Aerosol.
That was a thing he had in the gallery. He just like saw all these guys spray painting. He made a painting called Aerosol Rats. Just encapsulated the whole street art scene in 2 words. And I was like, this guy's awesome.
Oh, hi, Patty. I'm saying hi to somebody. Okay.
Oh, wow. It's absolutely uplifting, positive, and hopeful. Yeah. It is. Thank you.
So how's that? Is there any more? Are we good?
We got any other questions?
Yeah, if anyone has any last call, we're almost to an hour, but
Wow.
we have time for 1 or 2 more.
Any questions? Because this is a rare treat to have.
Oh, we got one.
All right. Let's check.
You see it?
From Pascal. Hey guys, Lou, your words and artworks are so perfect together. When you write, do you start to see the painting?
Yes. Yes, I do. Yeah. When I get almost done with it, I can start to see the painting. It starts bubbling up. It comes out of the fog, out of the smoke. It's once you get started, it goes by itself if you're open to it. Definitely. Once you get started. Sometimes it's hard to get started because you think it's not going to be there, but it always is. I don't believe in writer's block. You just got to get started and go. But I'm writing, poetry. So if somebody has to write, a 1,000,000-page novel on the Civil War, it's going to be different than. I'm just waiting for ideas to come in.
Do you find the poetry just comes to you just like the art does? Like they come to you and you write them down, or do you ever sit down and intentionally write a poem?
No, that's never good to sit down and intentionally try to. Although, but if you could just, sometimes you catch it out of your peripheral vision when you're walking down the street, you see something, especially in New York, you could see like the corner of a building and it could just spark something like that, that 1 million people pass every day and you see something on it. Sometimes you mishear something somebody said. So technically it's original because you heard it wrong. It comes from everywhere if you're just open to it,
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about poetry. It feels like, it's very rare that I would sit down and actually try to write something. If it's poetry, I feel like it just comes to you and that like the muses speak and then you have to write.
Right, exactly. There was Cy Twombly had a bench in his house that he would just sit in and look out over. He lived in Italy, over the fields and stuff like that, and he would just sit there till something happened.
Yep. Meditating.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you guys. Oh, we have another question. Before you go, this is from Aiton. What's your last piece of advice to each and every person in this room? It's been awesome to learn from you tonight. Thank you to both of you and Gregory.
Wow, last piece of, I would say I would bring it back to the first piece of advice. Just think of the craziest thing and do it. And if you have to be a self-contained mobile unit for a while where you're just the loneliest artist in the world and you're just working, you know, you need to get some history behind you. And then
It happened.
the best thing is to get some history behind you at the beginning. That way you have something to look back on.
Yeah, that's
Wow, that's my mom. Perfect timing, Mom. I never decline my mom's phone calls, but I'll
There
get
you
back
go.
to Mom.
Tell her I said sorry.
And you spoke to your mom today, right?
I got it out of it. I mean, yeah, I talked to her earlier.
You told her what you were doing tonight?
I told her I was doing a book reading. If I told her it was on the computer, she'd try to find it on TV.
There we go.
So great.
So yeah, the cool thing about getting the book today is that you get it with an original piece of art. Your right?
Right. The border is, these are made up by Andrews McMeel very nicely, but I hand drew the building and I think the star, and I colored it in. And on this one, I did the hearts and the text. This one, I did the text and the exclamation point. And this one, I wrote spaced and this star, but they're all hand signed as well.
So you get an original
it's not
piece of
just-
art and the book.
Yeah, it's not just tonight.
Oh, it's not just tonight.
If you order one from Book Soup, you get one of these in your book.
I love the eyes. Very cool eyes.
Oh my gosh, I was so happy when I could do that. I didn't think it was going to turn out, but I'll just tell you this. I paint mostly with the joints of my finger, so it's like this. I keep it still.
Yeah, no.
Or I write or like this, and then when I'm doing a big piece, I try to do my arm, but I'm not as steady with that. But here and then like that. So this, yeah, these were done with like this. So
Yeah, I like the style of them.
Yep, I'm happy with the eyes.
You killed it.
Very good.
You nailed it.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being with us tonight. This was really, really lovely.
Thank you very much, Book Soup, and everybody.
We just gotta have it for the history books.
It's all good. Oh, and this will be recorded for everyone watching, so share it around, and it can be rewatched multiple times. So it will be up here. It'll go on YouTube also later.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, terrific. Wonderful.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Please get a copy and those awesome postcards to come with it. And yeah, thank you again so much. And everyone have a wonderful night.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louis.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Are you going to turn it off?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Bye.